Yo, everybody, my name is Sal Abbatiello, Crush Grooving, Body Moving, the original Disco Fever in the Boogie Down Bronx. You are now listening to Growing Up Italian in the place. Catch it.
Growing Up Italian.
Growing Up Italian. Growing Up Italian podcast.
Growing Up Italian.
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 Growing Up Italian podcast.
Growing Up Italian.
Growing Up Italian.
Growing Up Italian podcast.
Growing Up Italian.
Woo! All right. Got the lint off. All right, we got Bronx in the building today. Let's go.
Fucking A, jeez.
How's it going?
Who's from the Bronx? Anybody else?
The guy in the hot seat. You and Mickey.
Shit. I'm going to get arrested again.
Again.
Fucking A.
By the way, we're here today because a mutual friend of ours said we're more alike than we know. And then you show up with a chain with your company's name on it, as I have a chain.
My kids bought it for my birthday.
Awesome.
I would have never bought this shit, but this gets a lot of clout.
A lot of clout?
Like a lot of like people like, oh shit. Even Fat Joe was like, oh damn, that shit is cool. Your shit is like this, yeah.
Do you like that when people like look at your chain?
It's cool.
I mean, being from the Bronx would be like a defensive.
You know what it is? They're not looking at the chain. They're looking at the word, the fever.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, the fever. Oh, that's pretty cool.
What?
Well, who ever knows about the fever? I mean, you can't wear this logo anywhere. I mean, everybody says it no matter where you go. Other countries and everywhere. It's just known all around the world. It's almost 50 years old, that logo, from 76.
For those that don't know, what is the
Still
fever?
violent. Huh?
What is the fever? For those that don't know.
Are we live? Right?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, shit.
Everybody says we're right into it. Yeah.
Well, the fever is a conglomerate of things going way back into the 70s, where I had this club. My dad had this club called the Disco Fever.
Oh, so Disco Fever.
Yeah,
okay.
right. So that was the name in front of it because at that time, disco was slamming. It was the new music after Motown. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes and the Temptations were at Motown, and then it became disco, which took off like crazy. So we opened up a club on 167 in Jerome in the South Bronx. And my mother came up with the name Disco Fever, which thank God, because that was the hook. Because then we put Catch It after it, which gave it a nice slogan, which was really good for advertising for clubs and stuff and for parties. And then eventually we turned it in when I came across hip hop in '78 in the Disco Fever. When I used to get off work from the Golden Hour up in the Bronx, that's where I worked as a bartender on Pelham Parkway and White Plains Road, which was my mafioso place where I grew up over there. And
what does that mean, mafioso place? There's a couple of guys there.
A few.
How you doing?
There was a few crooked noses in the place.
a couple of curved noses.
A real life Bronx.
Back in the Bronx, back in those, I'm jumping all around the place. Back in the Bronx in those days, all the clubs had bands, and it was predominantly Italians. All the clubs, and there was a lot, like I said, Chaz Palmolari had a band called Razzma Chaz. Joe Pesci had a band. Vincent, the one with the white hair and the Godfather.
Okay. He
had a band. He was the drummer. Pesci played the guitar. It was crazy. So we all like grew up together in Pelham Parkway in the Bronx, right near Arthur Avenue near Fordham Road. And all the clubs were just full of bands, and it was all Italian occupied. We all grew up there. Throg's Neck, Arthur Avenue. We had Country Club, so we had a lot of strongholds where we were living and growing up, and they were occupying all these clubs, and eventually it started dying out, and I brought in the first disco into the Bronx. It was called the Playhouse. It was on Williamsbridge Road and Pelham Parkway. And one by one, all of these clubs with the bands just started going down one by one.
I do want to take a quick step back because, like you said, we jumped around a little bit. Your father started his business Was he the one that like was born in Italy, or was your grandfather?
Well,
I'm kind of curious how that
Yeah.
how that happened. How he ended up opening a club.
My whole family came from Italy. So they all came over here in the 30s and 40s.
From what part?
Naples.
Okay.
Napolitano.
Napolitano.
There you go.
So they settled in, not 30s and 40s, 40s and 50s. And they settled in right in the South Bronx on 149th Street, 3rd Avenue, and Washington Avenue. And they all took over this one building. And all the aunts and uncles and sisters and the brothers all lived there. The married couples, and they're in all 2 or 3 of them are in the same apartment because
The Brady Bunch.
You're coming here with no money, you know.
Yeah.
So and then each one had a store on the bottom of the building. My uncle had the shoe repair. My other uncle had the meat, the butcher shop, and then my grandfather had the grocery store. Him and his wife, and that's where they settled in. So my father was born over there in the States, and my uncle Sonny, his brother, they were born there, and my mother lived around the corner. So they all grew up in that neighborhood. So I guess he knew my mother as a teenager. And long story short, when my grandfather passed away at an early age of 51, who was loved in that neighborhood, they loved him because at that time there was such poverty going on, and he had the grocery store, and he was a good guy, and he used to give away half the food and let them take it out on credit, and he had this big red book that they said I had years later. My cousin told me about it. Everybody who owed me money in the book because nobody had money.
How
to
did
give
that
it back.
How did that work out?
Yeah, that book is still there. It's still there. There's no scratches on the book.
It's brand new.
Any interest on those? Or?
The shit back then, 30%. So now, when he passed away, my father was going to college to be a draftsman, and he had to help my grandmother in the grocery store. So he couldn't take it. He couldn't take being in that grocery store, and him and his black partner opened up a place called Alley's East, right on the corner of 149th and 3rd Avenue. And he borrowed money from, the mob to open up the place because he didn't have no money. And he had a great idea, and the place was beautiful. And right before opening night, there was a fire in the place. And it burnt a hole in the whole roof. And there was a hurricane, and the entire place got destroyed. Oh, my God. And he wound up still opening the grand opening, and everybody was in there with umbrellas and my mother and everything. So we grew up in that neighborhood. So it was Italian and black. And as the white people started leaving, the Italians started leaving, our family stood. So I grew up in that neighborhood. And things were so then he had to borrow more money to fix the place back up.
Was that
was really in
Can I
debt.
ask you something?
Yeah.
Was that like a fix in a sense, or did it naturally? Like, was that somebody playing something on your father, or
The fire.
Oh, no, the fire?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It was just electrical
I thought that was a way to get more money.
I have to
wait.
ask this question. You don't have to answer if it's personal, but how much did he borrow? Do you know like the number?
to
amount?
build a place back then, what could he have borrowed? 15,000 to build the whole place?
Yeah, but today is probably like
Yeah,
million,
like 300, 400.
Yeah.
Well, even more. That was like 52, 53.
Yeah. Now, you know why I asked? Because my dad, when he bought this building, he had to borrow money to buy it too. And it was like, $200,000. Like, so
Yeah.
it's, it's only
Oh, you're
reason why I
buying a
asked.
building. They would just
But
build
now,
it.
like when you had to pay him back, how did that happen? Did you actually?
I remember them coming to the house one time, and I remember my mother screaming, and I think they actually hit my father in the house for the money because he wasn't making the money at the club. It just started, and so my mother had to go work there as a bartender. So me as a baby, 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, I'm not going to school. I'm in the bar with her in the day because he couldn't afford to pay a bartender. Wow. So she used to tend bar. So I grew up in that neighborhood. So I'm on the corner. I'm the only white kid with all these black kids, and we're in the fire hydrant, and we're shooting the hoop in a basket in
A milk crate?
Yeah, in a milk crate. Whatever we could do, stickball in the street. So I was so comfortable in that environment. I just thought that that's how everybody else grew up. I had no clue about racism or because half my uncles were black. Uncle Jake, Uncle Bull, and even at our dinner table, my father, they used to come over. So I just thought everybody's home was like this. And the Italians and the blacks were kind of similar in the things they like. They love to eat, they love food, they love fast cars, they love women,
Jewelry.
They love jewelry, they like money, they like to get high, So it was a win-win. So
You remember the first time you experienced racism?
when I was 1 year old. I mean, when I was 1 year old, when I was 6
Damn, you
years
got
old.
good memory like that? I don't remember.
I was
anything.
up on the corner breakdancing at 1 year old. Yeah, when I was young, in the neighborhood. But my family always embraced all nationalities. You know, that's how we were. Italians love to just cook and let everybody eat.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So once this club, I'm assuming he fixed it then after.
So he fixed it up, and then it became successful eventually because they started building these big buildings across the street. So all the construction workers started coming there, drinking and eating and everything. And it kind of took off. And then he went and opened up another club with his partner, and it was called Pepper and Salt on 167 Jerome. By that time, I was about 16 years old. And I was in there helping him paint it and everything. I was going to high school right near there in a place, in a school called All Hallows. And he opened the club up, and it just blew up. It was a jazz club, and they served soul food. And him and his partners, they had all these tuxedo jackets, plush velvet. And my father played the trumpet. His partner played the keyboard, and his other partner played the xylophone. And they had this little band, and they used to do whatever. I met George Benson there. I met Walt Frazier from the Knicks there.
Sick.
You know, Homer
that was a
Jones
hot
from
spot.
the Giants. It became a hot spot. Politicians used to go there, and that was the beginning of his success. My father didn't make it till he was in his late 40s. He started doing very well. And then eventually we went down the block. And before the fever we opened up a place in the Bronx called the Golden Hour. And it was on Pelham Parkway and White Plains Road. And that's when I told you before about the Italian neighborhood. And it was Italian. All the bands were Italian. And Just the Gigolo, Anywhere I Go. That used to be the in record every week. Every band played that. And all the bands were very successful, and they used to go around from club to club.
So like like you said, okay, now the construction workers were coming. I want to like kind of bring this up, but back then, these bars, people just go there to get a drink during lunch too. It's not like it is today. Like you go to a bar at night. It's a bar is like instead of getting a bottle of water, you go buy like drink a pint of beer during lunch or something.
Well, especially the construction workers, you know, they're drinkers. They're tough guys. So for lunch, you know, when they get off for that hour, they're going in to get their juice, and then they're going back, probably screwing up the building after a while. But and then back then, what the hell were drinks? What could drinks have been? I remember when we were in the Golden Hour, drinks were $1. Top shelf was $1.50 in 1970. So in the 60s and the 50s, what could it have been? 25 to 50 cents for a drink. Crazy. You know, so
I miss those days.
White Castle was 8
remember
cents.
that?
Yeah.
8 cents a burger, White Castle.
What I wanted to tell you, Sal, anybody I've met that's grown up in Harlem or the Bronx, the way you guys say 100 just blows my mind. Like I'm on 167th. You know? You say hun. You say hun.
Hun. 167.
So how old were you when you
we
started
make-
working in?
We make all our words up. Huh?
How old were you when you started working in nightlife? Or
17.
17 officially?
First night was at Pepper and Salt. My dad said, "Why don't you come?" I was getting out of high school. I just finished high school, and it was that summer, and I had got me my first brand new car, a Buick Wildcat convertible, brand new, top down, and I had these beautiful spoke hubcaps, and I went to work there as the waiter. I couldn't understand one thing anybody would say. "Yo, man, what's up? Give me a black and water." I don't know what drinks are and everything. "Yo, Johnny Walker Red." I'm like, "What's Johnny Walker Red?" And everybody knew I was, it was my dad as a kid. And I go outside to go home, the hubcaps were gone. I said, "That's it. I ain't working over here no more."
And you lived right there too?
No, that was on 167 Jerome. That was Pepper and Salt. So he had me working there. And then he opened up on Gun Hill Road, and not Gun Hill Road, or White Plains Road and Pelham Parkway, called the Golden Hour, along with my uncle. My uncle, Sonny Abbott, his real name was Abbatiello, my father's brother, was a big-time guitar player, made records that were on the pop charts, and he had a TV show, and he was considered one of the best guitar players in the country. And he played at the Copa for about a year straight in the lounge. So he knew all the big stars, Sinatra and everybody. So he opened up a club, and my father designed it, and they put the band behind the bar. And they threw me behind the bar, 18 years old. I'm the bartender now in this older Italian place where everybody from the neighborhood is there. And my uncle played. He had a band too. And that's where Charles Palmolieri got his start playing in there. And Joe Pesci, and I met all those guys. And, all the guys that were made men, they were in there. They loved the place because the band was behind there. So they were like the center of attraction. Everybody could see them, give everybody a drink on me,
Yeah. I just want to make sure I got this right. Your dad's last name is Abbatiello, but his brother changed it to Abbott. Is that for music reasons?
Yeah. Well, my uncle did it. He did it for music reasons because an Italian couldn't get work that day. That in that time on TV in the 50s and early 60s.
Why was that?
I don't know. I guess racism, back then.
Just like it wasn't like cultured?
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't cool to have an Italian with a vowel at the end of their name on TV.
Gotcha.
Yes, that was especially for the TV show. And I think it was more commercial.
So from 17 to how long were you just kept working from 17? You started as a bartender and
I haven't stopped. So I was a bartender for a few years. And then when I noticed, I started going out, when I was 19, going to clubs up in the city, Xenons and all these clubs that have DJs, big time DJs. And in those days, then nobody spoke on the microphone. It was just blending records.
There's no MCs.
Hell no, nobody. There wasn't even a microphone in a DJ booth. And then disco music started really getting big in Westchester on Central Avenue. And these two clubs opened up called Fudgies and Milky Way, which were
I love Fudgies and Milky Way.
huge
Snacks.
huge clubs, big 1,000 people. And I went and got a job in one of them on the weekends. I was the maitre d', and I started bringing in all the disco acts. Harold Melvin, Teddy Pendergrass, the Tramps, Sister Sledge.
That's in the 70s?
Pointer Sisters. Let me see, I was 72, like that.
Yeah.
I was about 21, 22 years old. So I became the maitre d' and the booking agent there. And that's when...
Did your dad get
went
mad
to the
that you
Bronx.
worked somewhere else a couple of days?
Huh?
Did your dad get mad that you worked somewhere else a couple of days?
No, not at all.
He supported it.
Well, because the clubs, all the bands were going out. The club started dying. Because disco music started taking over.
Yeah.
So all the clubs in the Bronx, there was about 15 of them. Popping, all of them were popping. Yonkers, even the Bronx, And they all started going out one by one. DJ took over. A DJ could play 100 hits in a row when a band can only play 10, 15 hits, in a set.
Earlier, you were talking about disco fever. I can't explain enough how iconic disco fever. Whenever anybody says disco, it's like they automatically always say fever, right after.
Yeah.
And I never knew, obviously I knew disco fever, but I also think it's like a state of when you're dancing to be I have disco fever.
Yeah.
It's such
That's
a
kinda crazy that you
memorable
said that was you.
name,
It's a household word,
And then when I created the logo with this old man who used to make painting signs for the club with the ultraviolet paint, and they would put the blue light under it, so when you walked into the bar, it was like performing live, jazz night, chicken night, wing night, all these crazy things that they used to do in these bars, and that's how they advertised. So when I asked them, I said, I want a logo with a thermometer because it's hot, and a record,
That's cool.
catchy, and we came up with the fever, catch it. And it's such an easy thing to promote anything, it became legendary, that name, all over the world.
So 2023, we celebrate 50 years of hip hop. I think that's why we're all here today, because we were told that you had a huge role in that. So I kind of want to know how you saw hip hop born, being born in the Bronx.
Well, like I said, I was working at the bar, and after the bar closed at 4:00 in the Bronx, everything was unmonitored, so we could stay open till 6, 7 in the morning.
Back then?
Yeah, at
Serving
Disco
alcohol
Fever.
too?
They just served it. You had a liquor license. It had to end at 4,
Okay.
but nobody,
Nobody followed it.
It took care of the cops and everything. And
The
you
good
stay
old
open
days.
as long as you want. And then I would go down there, have a drink, relax, chill out with my dad. And we lived in Jersey. We left the Bronx and moved to Jersey at that time. So that was on the way back because it was on the way home. And at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, this DJ would get up after the house DJ left, and he would start DJing. And his name was Sweet G. That was his DJ name. And now I'm sitting in the club and I'm drinking, and he starts playing these records, and he's talking on the microphone. Now remember, there was no talking on in my disco, it was just the DJ blending back and forth. It was all about doing the hustle and dancing, and it wasn't about talking on the mic. And he's rhyming all these nursery rhymes. Jack and Jill went up the hill to catch a pail of water. Jack fell down the hill and down. Say ho, and the whole place is going ho, and I'm sitting back going, the hell, this guy is like the Pied Piper. Everything he's saying, the whole crowd is responding to him, which made me click. I said, oh, damn. He's making all the people in the place be as one person. They were interacting with each other, strangers. So it was so easy to interact with people you didn't know because now you're all doing the same thing together. They became like the chorus line, like it was like Moses.
Partner at sea.
Partner at sea. And everybody say, and you got a doctor here and a hooker here and a pimp here and a drug dealer there and a school teacher there. Now they're all becoming one person and they're all enjoying this situation they have together that they're repeating everything this guy's saying, and it was going with the music. And I walked up to him after one night and I said, yo, where could I see, what is this? He said, it's in the South Bronx, in the streets, people are talking and emceeing over the music, and that's what the teenagers are doing. He was the same age as me, so at that time he was about 21, 22, but he was head of a group home. So he was dealing with the urban kids in the streets, so he had a little, he had a foot in there, in the door. So we went to a few parks, and finally I went to a park where Grandmaster Flash was playing. Yeah. And he's hooked up to the pole, and all these kids are there. There's like hundreds and hundreds of kids after school, because it was a teen movement. And he's DJing, he's mixing back and forth, and all these guys are talking on the music over the microphone. And I walked up to him, and I was like, yo, I said, I got this place. I didn't even tell my father yet. I said, I got this place. I want you to come DJ at. You're going to be famous because people could come see you. And he's looking at me like, who the hell's this white guy? I'm 22 years old. You're going to make me famous? I'm famous already. Look at this. I said, no, this is going to be a place where you could have a real setting and people could come see you, like record companies and people.
Because the first place was smaller?
What do you mean?
Like the place you first saw him was...
No, it was in the park.
Oh, it was in the park.
Outdoors. This is outdoors.
I thought this was like a club.
No, there was no clubs. There was nothing.
This was like in the park. That's crazy.
Remember now, disco was the hottest thing.
That's crazy. So you're like the
disco
first person
R&B.
to bring it in a club?
So I went to see it, and I said, if you come work it. So I go back to see him again, and I said, look, come, we'll do a Tuesday night. No, I'm not doing no Tuesday nights. I go back to I didn't even ask my dad yet. So I go back to my dad and I said, look, I found this music, the guy that goes on at 5 a.m. It's gonna blow up. I'm telling you, it's gonna be the newest thing. Nah, I don't want to do this shit. I said, come on, give me a Tuesday. He said, all right, I'll give you a Tuesday. He did it just to shut me up because all his friends were against it. They said, nah, they talk on the mic, they spit on it, they don't sing, they're using other people's music, it's not real, it's fake, it's disgraceful.
Literally hip hop.
What they're doing. That wasn't no gangster stuff or anything. It was all party music, nice stuff, nursery rhymes and rhyming, about good stuff, birthdays and stuff. So anyway, I go back to Flash, and I said, look, I'll give you $50 to come DJ. So he talks me up to 100. So I said, I'll give you 100. He goes, well, what about the Furious Five? Fury, whatever, his rappers. So I said, all right, another $50. So anyway, we agreed. I said, if you come there, I'm telling you, you're going to get famous. So we do our first night. It's a Tuesday night called Terrible Tuesdays. And it's $1 to get in, $1 a drink.
By the way, I will say $150 for the entertainment. It seems like a lot for those days, right?
I went over, right? But I'm getting like 4 guys for it. Remember, they got to carry up crates.
Yeah, okay.
I'm on the second floor. and they got to rent a van to bring the crates in.
Yeah.
Remember? And some
Was
of
your
them
dad, like,
They
happy
didn't have
with-
cars. It was OJs. They were taking the crates of records out of the OJs.
Was your dad happy when you spending like $150 on a Tuesday?
No, he didn't even come. Nobody even cared. They thought it was going to flop. So anyway, I'm handing out these paper flyers in the street for a couple of days myself. I'm going around to 149 3rd Avenue, Fordham Road, and I'm handing them all over the place in the South Bronx, on 170th Street in front of the high schools. 700 kids show up. We got 4 people working. There's no payphone. I mean, there's no cell phones. There's no beepers. And I'm trying to get on the payphone, and I'm calling my, hurry up, call Pepper Salt. Tell them to send down some friends, some people. I'm calling up all my friends from a payphone. Nobody's answering the phone. If you ain't near the phone back then, that's it. You're done. You got to be sitting near your phone in your house. Or sitting near a payphone and you knew the number.
Yeah.
And that was it. Everybody was devastated. But who was in there? All these street gangs were in there, all teenagers. Yeah, they're coming in 15, 20 at a time. So now, and here's this white guy that's 25 years old who's running this club, and, but being in that environment and in that neighborhood my entire life, I just fit in where I was so comfortable being in that environment. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't afraid. I knew how to handle them, and, I knew how to handle being with them because a lot of them were our family and friends. So anyway, club takes off. Now I said, let's do another night. We do. I go, let's do the weekend, Friday and Saturday, but we'll do a dress code. So I find this Puerto Rican DJ, Junebug, who's phenomenal. And Sweet G, who was the manager, I made him the MC. So now we're open Friday and Saturday, and it takes off. Packed, lines around the corner. And then eventually I went Thursday, Wednesday. I'm bringing DJ Hollywood, DJ Eddie Chiba, DJ Rezzy Wells, Lovebug Starsky, Star Child, Brucey B. And these are all the biggest. And I was giving everybody 2 or 3 a night. Then we got lucky. There was a store downstairs that went out of business, and we took it. So then we had 2 floors. Then we had rooms in the back that we started pushing out and making the place bigger. And in the back, we had these slot machines back there, Joker Poker games. We had Pac-Man games back there. So I started putting all this entertainment all over the club. And then then it became like the YMCA of the Bronx. It was very I was mentoring a lot of the kids because a lot of them were unmonitored. They were kids in high school or 19, 20 in college. Parents were, working 2 jobs. They weren't home. These kids were just out there. Some of them had parents were drug addicts. Some of them were homeless. Some of them didn't have parents. They were living with grandparents. So what I did was not only run the club, I ran it according to what the situation needed to help mentor these kids. So on Thursday night, I had entertainment night. And I would do the dating game to show them how to have a format, to have organization. And the prize, I would get them to go in a limo, to go to the city, to go to a Broadway play, which they would have never in their life ever got. And I will get them first and second row seats. They will come back to the Fever on the date, 2 couples, and come in the club for free and drink for free all night. That was the dating game. The bikini contest, $2,000 in cash prizes. So everything I did was giving money back to the community in a way of, but having it as entertainment. Then the Gong Show came. Kid and Play was in the Gong Show. Force MDs was in the Gong Show. Slick Rick was in the Gong Show as Gay Fever. So many people got their starts in the Gong Show, but it was, again, $2,000 prize, cash prize. And I would give out trophies every week, so it would last like 8, 9 weeks in a row. Then the finals would come, and we would give all these trophies to the first 5 people. And what was it? I named that tune. I would sit on stage, and the DJ would play a few bars of the music, and if you came in the club, you got a ticket to get in. And if your name was called, hey, number 462, come on down. You're the next contestant on Name That Tune. And they would go up there, and we would have a school bell, and then he would play the record, and then what is it?
So what you hear
Motown Show, Love Child. And I would pay them right there, cash. And I would have a grand finale. So Thursday night blew up. And then we were open 7 nights a week for 10 years.
Wow.
Over 3,000 nights of hip hop in a row, dealing with that environment and dealing with the tragedy of what goes on in that neighborhood. Some people at the end of the night had no money to leave. Sal, could you give me a few dollars so I could ride the train all night and come back to the Fever the next night? Sal, could I stay here overnight? I had people live in the club, had nowhere to go. I would leave them a few dollars. I would leave them the key to the club. This is customers. It was so heartbreaking how many people, their families, God forbid somebody passed away, their family was still in the morgue for 2 months. They had put a sign up on the wall tonight. The door fee is going to the Johnson family, to bury them with respect.
Was the Fever viewed by the community, maybe by people who weren't involved, as dangerous?
You mean regular people?
Yes.
Oh, well, remember, if you're getting 700-800 people, obviously,
Anything's dangerous.
you have your gangs and everything. And
You still have that with hip hop clubs though. That people look at as dangerous.
oh yeah, look, come on. There's more good people than bad people. I mean, let's be.
So who were some of the people that performed at the Fever? Because
that's what's good.
it is absolutely legendary.
So now once Tuesdays takes off and Flash is becoming a star, sure enough, Sugar Hill Records came to the club, signed Flash right out of the DJ booth, Sylvia Robinson. So now here comes I'm in the office and I hear this record, do the bang bang boogie, say up jump the boogie to the rhythm. I'm like, who the hell's rapping on the mic at 9 o'clock in the evening? And I go outside and they said, nah, that's a record. I went, a record? They made a record? Oh shit. I said, wow, that's pretty smart. Put that shit on a record. Well, little did I know. So now who was coming there? Back then, KTU was the big radio station. Because that's when disco was big. And Carlos de Jesus used to come hang out at my place. He was one of the big jocks on KTU. And he had a TV show called Hot Tracks. So he came to the club and I said, yo, Carlos, you have to play this record on KTU. He goes, I can't play a hip-hop record on KTU. I go, I'm telling you, put it on when you do Make It or Break It. Let the people decide. He goes, nah, I'm telling you, Carlos, this is going to be the biggest record. It's the biggest record in the club. He knew it was. He goes, but I don't think my boss is going to let me. I said, put it on your Make It or Break It. Puts it on, whatever it was called back then, Make It or Break It. It was the most requested record ever in the history of KTU when that record went on the radio. Why? All teenagers are calling up. There's nobody in their 20s and 30s and 40s. All high school kids are calling up. It took off. Once that happened, he started playing it, and then that's when hip-hop took off. Then Curtis Blow came out. He used to come to the club as a kid. One day he's on the regular line. Next he's on the VIP line. I'm like, who's this guy? It's Curtis Blow. He's got Christmas rapping out. He's got a freaking record called Christmas Rapping. I go, he made a record about Christmas? And that shit took off. He became the first rapper on a major label. Now, all of a sudden, the customers are becoming recording artists. So picture this, every week now it's blowing up. Now you got Treacherous 3, Spoonie G, Cold Crush Brothers, Furious 5, Sugar Hill Gang, and all these groups, and they're hanging out in the club. So there's no gangs back then. No entourages. They all came in by themselves. Right now, sometimes in one night, they have 20 or 30 recording artists in the club at the same time with no hassle, walking in and out, no entourages. They're coming by themselves.
Were they famous at that point?
Huh?
Were they famous at that point? No, the artists, were they famous?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're on the radio now. Look at Curtis Blow. Then Sugar Hill became world famous. Mm-hmm. So, and then rappers, Grandmaster Flash. Once they started making all those records, Happy Birthday and all the big records, when the message came out, then they started going like, so what they used to do, we had a payphone that was connected to the DJ booth, where if the payphone rang, we would pick up the phone in the DJ booth. And when they would be overseas, they were so homesick, they would be calling in and we'd have Flash talking on the microphone with the phone in the DJ booth. And Sugar Hill and all of those guys used to call Sequence. I made that record, Gonna Funk You Right On Up, We're Gonna Funk You. They had the Funky 4+1, Shaw Rock. They discovered so many. It was just an unbelievable
Did Fat Joe
time.
ever come in there?
Oh, he was a kid. He was second Fever. He was in the 90s, Fat Joe. This is 70s and 80s.
Oh, wow.
We're talking 81, 82,
Yeah, this is early on.
83.
What would you say back then if you had to think back and remember, like, oh my God, what was the craziest night at the Fever when you were around that age?
There was too many crazy nights.
Every night. Tuesday.
Did you ever have someone come in that you weren't expecting, or?
Oh, there were celebrities all the time.
Yeah.
Sidney Poitier, politicians, M. Toomey, Juicy.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody came there. Basketball players, you know, whoever was anybody at that time. And the biggest drug dealers that were back then, you know, Nicky Barnes and all those guys, you know, that was a place to be. But they only came at the end of the night. You know, they get their Moet. You know, they would be buying all the girls Moet. And back then, the splits, Moet splits, were very popular. Put a straw in it. And it was actually when we got in People magazine in 83. Picture this, a hip-hop club in People magazine in 1983. My picture with Curtis Blow. And we got the Christmas kids. We got somebody sipping Moet out of a straw, which was, Moet was like this classy champagne back then. Only the rich drank. And I'm putting a straw in it with a cherry. You know, we had so many trends that we created back then. Timberland boots, you know, it used to just be with the Midwest people, the construction workers, and the chopping trees down. Now all of a sudden it's the in boot, you know, and the stock goes from $20 to $80.
How did that happen? Like, what made Timberland so popular?
Once anybody hip hop wore, whether it was Adidas suit like Run DMC or Puma, whatever they wore, sheepskin coat, you know, Kango, they just took over. You know, it just because there was such a big clientele for it, and as you see today, it went to the world now. The whole world.
You guys had Run DMC's first show ever there at the Fever, correct?
Well, 83 was when everything really, when it really blew up, when the Fever went viral around the world, because everybody wanted to know about hip hop now. Because now it's out there 4 years on the radio. There's groups out there. There's tours out there. And now where could I see this? And there's this one club in the Bronx called Disco Fever. And they want to go. So I had Italy magazine there, Sweden, each week, Germany, Japan, China. It was so fascinating. And they knew they could come there and they were safe to get in. Because I had a crew. I mean, most of my bouncers were all ex-cons that I took in with me, and we formed our own. We had a family. You know, at that point in 83, I had 5 places. We had about 180 people working for us. You know, so I had an opportunity to give people work, because back then the unemployment was.
How was like freestyle in these parties? Did a lot of people listen to freestyle too? Freestyle music.
Oh, that didn't come till after 85, 86. But the point he's getting back to with Run DMC. So 83 is when the Fever blew up nationwide. So it was only Disco Fever and Studio 54 were the most popular clubs. Yeah. But I mean, 54 lasted about a year and a half, maybe. So
that's it?
That was it. If you watch the documentary.
Everybody always talks about Studio 54.
Oh my God, you would think and it didn't do anything. Like, we created so many opportunities for people in life, and just not the music business, but, you know, showing them that they could be somebody, you know. And I was very, very in tune with the crowd. I didn't cater to the hustler. I catered to the regular person, because those are the people that would support you night after night. So anyway, I opened up Fever Records in 83. I put out a record called Games People Play, which I wrote in my after hour place, because that's the name of it, was Games People Play. So we had a after hour place in an apartment building on the second floor, and we had a crap table, we had a blackjack table, we had slot machines, and I was smoking a joint one night, and I was just sitting down writing what I saw was going on about Games People Play, and I write this whole song, and I give it to Curtis Blow, and it's like, yo, Curtis, I wrote this record. He goes, nah, man, I can't put out a record where a white guy wrote a record. I'm telling you, the fucking lyrics is off the hook. And everybody's telling him the lyrics, because he wrote music, a song, but they didn't have the lyrics. Anyway, finally he hears it, and it comes out. And they named it after my after hour place, Games People Play. And we actually had a real dice game in the studio if you hear in the beginning of the song, give me a shooter for the dice, and me and Crazy Eddie and me and the guys are shooting dice, and they're recording it, and the record went out. It went to #1, my first record. #1 on KTU, #1 on Kiss, #1 on BLS, all at the same time. So now the Fever's the biggest club out. I got my first record is the #1 record in New York. I'm blowing up, and every TV show or magazine, that's anything. And when People Magazine came there, that was the ultimate. When People Magazine, then Time Magazine came, Rolling Stone Magazine. I mean, we're getting pages of it. And I did a lot of TV shows, Tour on the Town, NBC News, how hip hop was blowing up in the Fever and in the Bronx. And the guys were just getting more popular. And then Run DMC came out, and Run DMC's record was finally when hip hop took a turn to get a little harder. It's like that, the way it is. It wasn't the party music. Suck MC, they're talking shit now, like it's like, yo, it's what we say. It's
not nursery rhymes anymore.
No, it ain't Happy Birthday no more. It ain't Heartbeat. It make me feel so weak. And it changed the course of hip hop to go that. Then the Beastie Boys came out. They did their first show in the Fever. Curtis, all the guys, New Edition, and then as we're getting more popular, Hollywood starts looking around to make movies. So Wild Style came out, and there was another hip hop movie, a very popular one. What the hell was the name of it? Beat Street. That came out, and the Fever was not in any of them. And then finally, Russell Simmons, Charles Stetler, and Warner Brothers decided to put out a movie, and thank God it was Crush Groove in 1985, and the Fever was a big part of the movie. I played myself in the movie, my first acting role and my last, which I made a big mistake.
How was that? Were you a good actor?
Oh, you're gonna have to watch Crush Groove. I definitely didn't win no Oscar for that shit. Well, I'll tell you one thing: they let me use my own lines.
Oh, that makes it easier.
You were yourself.
They said, just be yourself. And the movie came out, and it was going to be the biggest movie. And every theater it went to was sold out. And unfortunately, the theaters weren't prepared for the crowds, and there was a lot of fighting and riots at the theaters because they couldn't get in. They weren't prepared for this. And unfortunately, they pulled it out of all of the theaters because they thought the movie was violent. The movie was so GP, right? Crush Groove. There was nothing, not even a curse word in the movie. And unfortunately, the movie didn't get the recognition it should have gotten around the world. And it got pulled right out of the theaters right away.
It was too viral.
Damn shame. And another big, and the scene in the movie where the Fat Boys win the contest, that was a real live situation at the Fever when we did a talent show, and we did it in 5 boroughs. And I went to 5 boroughs as a judge, meet Curtis Blow, Mr. Magic, rest his soul, WBLS, the pioneer of getting the first hip-hop show on the radio, major radio, because he was on HBI first. And we got sponsors. We got Coca-Cola to sponsor it, BLS to sponsor it. And we had the first hip-hop show at Radio City Music Hall. And everybody got in for free.
Wow.
That was the deal. So they gave me 1,500 tickets. So picture this, all my customers, kids, they're going to Radio City for the first time ever. And they're going to see a show of their people, of their music. Curtis Blow headlined it. Sweet G opened up. Sweet G was the first rapper to be at Radio City. Fearless 4 was there, Houdini, UTFO, and then we had the contest in between. And that's where the Fat Boys won the contest at Radio City. I was a judge. And what happened at Radio City too, so many, got thousands and thousands of urban kids coming, teenagers. Freaking Radio City was bugging out. They never saw no shit like this. I had to have all my bouncers be ushers because they were going to shut the place down. They weren't even going to let us do the show. And then I had to take control of Radio City with all my staff to get everybody in quietly and because they all came at the same time. And Radio City was just freaking out. Anyway, And we all got in, and that scene became a big scene in the movie.
We're very excited to announce a long-term partnership with the Soto Gastronomia out from Australia. These guys got a really, really interesting restaurant.
DeSoto has a very interesting story. So they're first generation Italian Australians.
They're basically us in Australia.
DeSoto was created in their parents' and grandparents' honor so that they can pay their legacy forward. 100% of their proceeds goes to people in need, charities, and the arts.
DeSoto will be supporting us this year, so you know the content's going to be even better.
Bro, and who knows? Maybe at some point we're going to have to take a trip down under, huh?
I was always curious how the Italian Australians made food.
It's time we find out.
Crispy, crunchy, savory, and sweet. Order what you want on Uber Eats.
Listen, guys, from now till the end of the year, December 31st, on the Uber Eats app, you go to Anthony and Sampanini shop, and you get a nice $25 off.
When you use the code Panini.
You got to use the code Panini.
Terms apply. See app for details.
So I want to ask you two things. The first one is, did you ever envision all this happening? Like, as a young kid, who the hell would have thought you went from jazz to band,
Disco.
hip-hop, freestyle? It's like
I've been
nuts.
so blessed. It was like each one had its time. Like
Yeah.
when one door was closed and the next door opened.
But you were on it.
When
You were on it
when I
quick.
brought the first DJ into the Bronx, you know, I'm like, oh shit, look at this. There's hits all night long now, and I got these two DJs, and I actually set the tone for disco to be in the Bronx. And then when I bring the hip hop indoors, I knew only because of the reaction of the DJ and the crowd having this relationship with each other. I was like, this is when you having the crowd involved with the music.
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, picture now when it's 500, 700. Oh, you know, like everybody's one person,
They know the
and
words.
they're all interacting with each other, and it became such an easy way to meet somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you get to smile at somebody. It ain't like, what you looking at? You know, everybody's like happy, and they're dancing to these really cool songs that are talking about what they're going through every day, you know? Especially when Mel made the message. Joey Robinson and Sylvia Robinson, who were the presidents of Sugar Hill Records, they called me up, and I'm having like in the DJ booth on the payphone, and they're in the studio, and they're finishing the song, and they said, yo, we're coming over. I go, oh, tonight's our anniversary party, coming down. He goes, nah, we're coming with the bigger record that's going to be bigger than Rapper's Delight. I went, bigger than Rapper's Delight? Come out. When they put on the message, the whole place, when that song started, in the beginning of the song, and yo, everybody, when he started saying the lyrics, it's like a jungle sometime. It make me wonder how I keep from going under, you know. And then all the kids, it just took off that night. We must have played it 5 times that night. That was the first time anybody ever heard
You
it.
funk flexed
Test
it?
pressing.
You funk flexed it?
Yeah, we funk flexed it. Oh, that's my boy. I can't tell. He props me up all the time, man. Actually, I saw him Tuesday night at the Red Alert party, the 40th anniversary of Red Alert, and he just was observing me, which I didn't know, and I went over to say hello, and he goes, yo, man, I gotta say, you are one of the most passionate people regarding this music that I know. He says, it's an honor to know you. And I was like, cool, thanks, Flex. You know, that was hot.
He's still one of New York's hottest DJs.
Without a doubt. Still pulls it in.
Sal, real quick, I see you wearing some jewelry on your hand.
Yeah, I like the pinky
Talk
rings.
to us about the Juice Crew. For the people who don't know,
The Juice Ring.
what is?
What's the juice ring?
On both
What is
hands.
the Juice Crew?
Yes.
The Juice Crew was as we were forming this family, because we all kind of fell in love with each other. A lot of these people came from an unfamily-like situation. And you know how Italians are. We're so family-like. My mother used to cook, and I would bring down lasagna. They never had real Italian lasagna. Stuffed clams, baked ziti. She's sending all this shit down. And they started falling in love. And they were falling in love with our family because they felt how we had so much respect for, the urban lifestyle. And it was part of our lifestyle. and how I took care of the neighborhood and whatever anybody needed in the neighborhood. And my staff, I would have cleanup nights once a month, and they would all come in. and have all the staff from all the clubs and come in and clean the place up. And then we order pizza and we order Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we would be in there all night, and we'd be getting high, and we'd be smoking a joint, we'd be sniffing blow, and we stay in there till 5, 6 in the morning. But the whole staff and the bartenders DJing, the DJs and the tending the bar, and I just made that atmosphere. We would put up the decorations for Christmas together, and most of my bouncers were ex-cons I would hire. Not one of them, not one of my staff ever went back to jail, ever. And I'm talking about Mandingo, 6'5", 300 pounds, running Attica and shit. And now he comes in, he's like, hi, welcome to the video. How are you? And then he's in Crush Groove.
Wow.
Come on in, fat boys, I got to check you out. You know, it was amazing. And Bam Bam, I had this security guy, Bam Bam, who was in the Black Spades and who was one of the big guys in the Black Spades. And he started working for me. And we're still friends till today, 45 years later. I just saw him the other night. You know, they would take a bullet for me, and I would for them. And the more popular we were getting, the bartenders and the staff they were becoming celebrities in the entire neighborhood. And they watched it mature, you know, the music mature. So the juice ring, that's how the juice ring started.
Gotta show the camera the rings right there.
Where we are, here we are. Boom. It ain't that big of a ring, but how this happened was there was always somebody coming and selling furs, jewelry, radios, TVs. They steal the shit in the day, then they come to the Fever at night, and I'll be buying everything and giving it out to the staff and shit. So one person came in with this ring, and it had a J in it. It didn't have an S. And at the time, Mr. Magic was on this radio station called WHBI Radio, which was the only radio station playing hip-hop. He was renting it. I was one of his sponsors. Sugar Hill was one of his sponsors. And I sponsored the whole year. And we became friends. So his middle name was John. So when he sees the ring, he's like, yo, that's my initial. I go, is it? Because we had become really good friends at that time. Because we had just started the Entertainers Basketball League, which is going on for 45 years later. Still to this day. I played in the first game. I had the shot at the buzzer to win the game. They carried me around the park, 3,000 people in the park. I'm the only white person in the park.
This guy balls too? Oh my God.
Crazy. Oh, I hit the shot at the buzzer. I hit the last 11 points, actually, to win the game. And the shot at the buzzer, this is real. So this is like, they carry around. So we go to HBI that night. Anyway, with Cowboy, rest in soul, Magic, rest in soul. Then we talked about the game. Anyway, so I started giving, so I said, I'm going to make one for me with an S. I'll make one for you. And you take my J. So that's how it started. And then we started calling it the juice rings. Because what's that word when you bust and loose? Juice, juice. How do you feel when you got that juice? Loose, loose. So that became the saying. I made that saying up, and the DJs would say it every night. And then me and Magic, we would put our rings together and like Shazam, you know? And then everybody else was, Melly Mel's like, yo,
Like the Green
where's
Lantern.
my juice ring? Curtis Blow, where's my juice ring? Flash, Sweet G. And
So you had to get a bunch?
one by one, that was everybody's birthday presents. Juice ring, juice ring. Then I started getting it for the girls. And the girls was a big diamond initial ring. The bartenders, the waitresses.
How many
So
juice rings are out there?
There's probably none. They probably hot them all
Everybody
right
got
now.
pinky rings.
That's how they got their button, the juice ring?
I even gave one to Frankie Crocker, rest his soul. You just don't know who he is. But I don't know if there's any. I know Mel lost his, Magic passed away. But I don't think anybody still has. Sweet G has his juice ring. He still has his juice ring. And I started giving them out now. I gave my two sons one. I gave my assistant white boy one. And that's how the Juice Crew started. That's why it's called the original Juice Crew. And then after that, I let Magic and Tyrone Will, Cold Chilling Records, use the name for Big Daddy Kane, Roxanne Shante, who used to come to the club when she was 15. And I used to make her go in the office. She had to do her homework. She had to show me her report card. Because at the time, she was like about 16 years old. And she was hanging out with Magic and all them because they put out that song, you know, Roxanne Shante song. And I wanted to make sure that, you know, she was monitored and she wasn't drinking and she did her homework. And she says it to today that she became a professional. She got a doctorate. And she attributes that to me all the time, of me keeping her in the office and doing her homework for those time that she was there, that year or two that she was hanging out there, and she always tributes that to me. She's very close with me, Roxanne Shante. I love her to death, and I just gave her juice ring at a concert that I had in
How much
Jersey.
do we have to do to get a juice ring?
You ain't getting no fucking juice ring, all right?
World juice ring.
No, you ain't got that kind of juice.
So how did freestyle come about?
So now, after hip hop started hitting '84, bad things started happening. The music changed. Then you had Public Enemy coming out, started getting harder. Now you have West Coast hip hop coming out, and the party music was fading out. Curtis Blow, Starsky, Sweet G, Furious Five, all the original guys, T. La Rock. They just started phasing out. The party music just started fading out. Now we're going into the second phase of hip hop. Then the fever started dying because now Roxy's opening up. Latin Quarters, now it's going to the city.
A lot of competition.
Now it ain't even competition. It's just killing us because now it's taking all my celebrities, Russell Simmons, Lyor Cohen, Rick Rubin, Tommy Boy Records, and now everybody's hanging out at the Roxy. You got Africa Bambaataa and all the Soul Sonic Force down there, Africa Islam, and Danceteria is doing it, Webster Hall, all these places are doing what I did. And they're hiring them, Danceteria, they're hiring all the hip hoppers. And that was it. So that's when it started turning. And then when the movie Crush Groove was gonna give me that second life, because now we're gonna be in a movie. The night that Crush Groove finished videotaping, we got shut down for no cabaret license. So they walk up to me, the director of the movie says, Sal, they're going to shut you down. I go, who? He goes, there's a whole bunch of police out here and squad cars. I'm like, they can't shut me down. He goes, yeah, they said you don't have the license. I got all the licenses. So they let them finish the movie, get all their equipment out. And that night it was Sweet G and Melly Mel's birthday party. They wait till we open and get everybody in the place, 1,000 people in the place. They come up and raid us and shut us down. We wind up having the party in the street, and it became the padlock law, and they padlocked the place. And the only way I could open the place is if I went and paid the fine, got the key, but I could never open up the place again as a dance place. So now the Fever gets closed up, and I'm sitting in the park, and I'm like, God damn, what am I going to do with my life now? Oh, God, Fever's closed up. Skate Fever closed up. So one by one, all the places are closing up. And I'm in this park, sitting down, Pole Park it was called, and I see this Puerto Rican kid DJing, and he's hooked up to the light pole just like Flash. And I see these kids breakdancing, but they're Puerto Rican, second generation Puerto Rican kids. And I'm like, fuck, Latin hip hop. That's it. And that's how I discovered it. And I made the first record by a young lady called Niobe. Please Don't Go. A young producer, Puerto Rican producer called Andy Panda Tripoli and Tony Moran and all those guys. I started. So I opened up a club catering to the same thing I did with the Fever, but the second generation Latinos. So I opened up the club before the music was really a
Was
hit.
it a different location?
Different location, about 170, Tremont and Webster, 177, about 10 blocks from the Fever, but in the same neighborhood. And we opened up the club catering to that clientele, and same thing. One by one, I discovered Information Society. TKA does their first show there, Niobe. I discovered the Cover Girls with Andy Panda. We put together them. They were customers. We putting out all this record. And now the high school kids, they're all going to school together. George Lamont, Sapphire, Cynthia, Judy Torres, they're all meeting each other, and they're all putting together songs, and then before you know it, it blew the hell up. And the Devil's Nest gave a lot of them their first opportunity. La India did her first show there, and that's when freestyle just took off.
You had a lot to do with the Cover Girls too, didn't you? produced a couple records.
Yeah, Cover Girls. We produced all the records. Andy Panda, Tripoli, CNC Music Factory, Little Louie, Vega. Made all their records. It came out on Fever Records, which was independent. And actually, we made history. It was the first album that had 5 independent charted singles on the Hot 100 chart from the same album.
Wow.
So that was, we made a little history there. And that was it. And then the Devil's Nest closed. The drinking age now changed from 18 to 21, right in the middle of the Devil's Nest. Killed it. Now 18, the party opens up. And what opens up? The Heartthrobs, which was the old fun house where Jelly Bean performed. They take my DJ, Little Louie, offer him $1,000 a night. Goes down there. Devil's Nest ends because the drinking age killed it. They became 18 to party with no liquor. So the whole crowd went there. And that was the end of the Devil's Nest. And then I became a club promoter. I had some of the biggest clubs. 1018, Studio 54 I did. Club Exit, all the biggest clubs. Copa I did for years and years. Had my birthday party there for about 10 years on Thanksgiving Eve. Same holiday as you.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then I became a concert promoter along with Adam Torres, Brian Rosenberg, and Vito Bruno, and all the guys. And I'm still doing it. So I never
What are you doing nowadays? Like, what's your life like now? Because I feel everything you told me, you adapted to everything life threw at you.
And like I said, through my whole career, I never really had a period where I wasn't relevant in some aspect. Either I was managing a hot act, or I was booking agent, or I had a hot club, or I had, or I was a concert promoter. Something was always there that triggered into the next thing. I had a club in the city called Downtime that was off the hook for 2 years. Then I had Essos. So there was always something that ran into something else.
You're still doing events now, right? Concerts and performances.
I've seen you just did a freestyle concert, right?
So here's the history of freestyle. So then when freestyle came out in 84, it died in 93. Out cold. Now again.
What made it die, do you think? What made freestyle die?
The music was the same. They weren't putting out new producers, new sounds. It got stale, just like the original people in hip hop. It just had its time. Had a great run, 7, 8 years, 9 years, packed. I put out the last good album with Lizette Melendez on Def Jam, Sony, and then there was another young lady, Karina, who put out a big record called Temptation, and Giggles, and those were the last records, and Little Susie were the last records of freestyle. Then it finally died in 94, it was over. But these kids were still young. They were still in their, early 30s. They still had a lot to give. And unfortunately, the music was dead, and it went down to nothing. And I was still trying to keep it alive with my clubs, putting them in here, but they weren't making that much money. They weren't drawing anybody, and hip-hop just blew up. That's when gangster rap came in, and hip-hop was just naughty by nature, and that whole scene, Busta Rhymes, Lords of the Underground, Then the Fat Joes started coming in. So
Biggie Smalls?
Well, that was right after the 92, 93 Biggies came out.
Is it true that Fat Joe was a promoter for you?
So what happened was I did my 20-year anniversary party in the year 2000. Mm-hmm. And I brought back all the freestyle artists that I had. Now, freestyle's dead for 6 years. Everybody's making fun of me. I'm 48 years old. Give it up with the freestyle shit. It's over. It's dead. It's like disco. It's dead. Step on the cassette. It's finished. Step on the CD. Step on the DAT machine. It's done. And I busted my butt. I handed out 50,000 flyers in the streets, old school. What shows up? So the owner of the club, I have it at Club Exit, holds 5,000 people. Yeah. He's laughing at me. He didn't even open all the floors. He said, we're going to be roller skating in here tonight. Ain't nobody coming. 5,000 people show up. Every young promoter in the city's going, what the hell, this guy never, what the hell, he's still doing it? So now all these young promoters, Adam Torres, Adam Says, all these guys are coming up to me saying, what is this? So now what do I discover? I reinvent freestyle again. How? Putting them together as a group, a unit. Yeah. They ain't worth that much alone. They can't fill up not even a club. But together, as a unit, as 10, Now I got 30 hit records in one night. It's like one headline. It was like one Bruce Springsteen, one NSYNC, one somebody. And Adam Torres did the first show in Connecticut. We sell out 2,500 seats. Remember, we're not drawing nobody. It goes to Mohegan Sun. 11,000 people come for freestyle. No bands, just track. Only hit records. 10 minutes on, off. 10 minutes on, off. 15 minutes. Just do your hit songs. And it reinvented itself. And that day, I had DJ Scribble at Club Exit, was the only new person. And from that day on, and we are as popular now, maybe even more than ever, because our audience is in their 50s. And they got money. Kids went off to college. And they're a sit-down crowd, but they want to party. So that crowd is a party crowd from the 80s and 90s, but they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're bringing their kids and their younger brothers and sisters who are in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah, Italian Americans love freestyle.
Italians and Puerto Rican. It's half and half. It's
Find a nice cougar at that concert.
It's cougars and women come
Sugar mama.
Women come in droves. They come 10 at a time. They leave their guy at home. They don't care. They're coming out to get drunk, get to smoke a joint, go home, do the wild thing, and then the next day taking Tylenol and Advil for their back because they were partying for 4 or 5 hours, and they look forward to the next one. And the same people go to every show. Sold out. Westbury. We just did Westbury Theater with Brian. I just did Westchester County Center, 2,000 people. It's amazing. And they're all, and now we're all growing up together. They're getting older. Their kids are coming to the con. So that's becoming this new family.
One of our friends is TK, one of TK's members' son, Feeve.
Yep.
Who's his dad? What's his dad? Tony, right? Wasn't it Tony?
Well, that was the
Slipping
original.
my mind right now.
He's not in the group anymore, but that's one of the originals. Tony.
One thing I wanted to, being that you're on the Grown Up Italian podcast, I want to talk about, just real quick, the hip hop days. Was the Italian culture a fan of that, or were they just like, I don't want anything to do with this,
Amazing. So now, when I go to the club, right? So now I'm a huge fan of it. I embrace it. I feel it's part of my culture because I grew up in the South Bronx. I'm saying it's part of my culture. Every time I brought somebody there, any one of my friends, they would just be amazed. Again, it was an amazement because the clubs we were in, nobody could talk on the microphone. It was just DJing, just blending music. And now they're coming to a place where say, they're shutting the music off, throw your hands in the air, say, just don't care. And the crowd, you're saying a rhyme, and the crowd knows the answer to the rhyme. So every time I brought somebody there, more and more, they loved it. So then they wanted to hang out there. I'm like, oh God.
Sal, who is the greatest Italian rapper of all time?
Joe Pesci.
The greatest, yeah, I guess.
He has a track, right?
Do you know any Italian rappers?
There's some DJs, famous DJs, Kid Capri.
Kid Capri's not Italian.
No?
He is,
No.
he is.
Kid Capri's Italian?
Yeah.
No way. Look that up. Google that shit.
Fact check that one.
I'm good friends with him. There is an Italian. Oh, he's gonna kill me.
DJ Scribbles is Italian.
Yeah. Now Scribbles had a hip hop group called Young Black Teenagers, and they performed at the Fever 2, and he was the DJ. And after the group broke up, what was the name of the record? Young Black Teenagers. Tap the Bottle.
All right, fact check. Is he Italian?
Not Italian, but he did post, I'm the black Italian, call me Black Italy.
No, he said I'm black and Sicilian.
Yeah, he's half and half.
Are you sure?
That's what
no,
it
it says people still think. Oh, you're right. It does say that.
Because his daughter says it too.
Fact
Kid
check.
Capri.
Vino Love, yeah.
All right. I learned something new.
All right,
tonight.
while you're there, Google
Hey.
best Italian American rappers.
But did you know Joe Pesci has a hit or an album? I just
No,
found out.
He like scrubbed it off the internet.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
Joe's a
me
bitch.
and Andrew
It's called.
sent it to each
It's
other.
called.
Joe
I'm the
was
Wise Guy.
exactly like that in real life when he was in the band as he is in his funny movies.
What kind of music was Joe performing?
was in the
All
band.
top
He's-
40
he's playing
Italian
guitar.
stuff. I'm just a gigolo, My Way, slow songs, whatever dance records.
I can't
were out
see
there.
him singing,
They
man.
did some Motown stuff, you know.
Is there footage of
disco
this
stuff.
anywhere?
No.
Anything?
The hip hop.
Nobody had cameras in
No
the clubs.
phones, cuz.
First of all, there was all mafiosos in the club. So you couldn't have no camera in the club.
Oh, you're
If
not
there was a
allowed.
flashlight, boom, that guy went. Bye, Felicia.
So long,
Get
brother.
out of here.
Everybody was with their
And you might not see him no more. You might not
where'd
see him
Tommy
or the
go?
camera.
Hold on, I got the video of Joe Pesci. Hold on.
Photos were very different back then in that time. Now everyone's
Nobody
taking
even
photos
had a
of
camera
everything.
in the club.
Do we have any Italian American rappers out there?
Go ahead, Joe. Joe's a character.
Not bad, not
He's
bad.
a real star.
Good thing he
Legend.
didn't. Good thing he gave that up though, right?
He's a real star.
Legend.
What do you think about hip hop
Oh, my man,
nowadays?
Solis. Solis is a rapper. He's Italian. He runs this place up in the Rochelle called Noma Social. And there's one other guy that's really popular too. Oh God,
Svedabasta? Svedabasta?
no.
No, you don't.
Are you listening to any new hip hop at all
Yeah,
these
that's what I was
days?
gonna ask.
Are you a fan
Trap.
of anyone?
What do you think of trap?
You know what's funny? A Boogie just sampled a record that is very similar to my games people play. And I don't think he sampled my record, but he sampled the record that I was working with back then. We changed the sound, but I got to look into it because if you hear his new record,
You think there's a check out there for you?
he's got that piano part. Oh, if it is,
You're
I
on
talk
it.
to my people.
yeah. But I think he copied the original record, which was Curtis Mayfield, but I got to find out. I got to make sure.
So we have a lot of friends that are Italian artists in Italy. I think it might be funny to just show him like one video.
Doing hip hop. There's a
Yeah.
huge,
In Italian.
huge emergence of Italian hip hop right now.
Every country.
It's become the biggest music market in the country, and it's less than 20
Crazy.
years old.
I feel like we got to show him one Sveta video. Just
It's amazing. In every country. You see in Japan,
Oh, you
you,
know,
see it in Korea, you
I
see
could
it
put
in
it on my
Germany,
phone, too.
London, everywhere.
I'll just hand him my phone. All right. So this is Italian trap.
Boy, just think about it. Started all with a Tuesday night.
Yes,
And-
sir.
Terrible
and-
Tuesdays.
And Cool
Sal,
Herc.
Sal, we just went to Italy last month, and we went to a hip hop only festival. No
First time ever.
No American artists, all Italian hip hop artists. 85,000 people.
First
were
time
there.
ever. 'Cause
85,000.
Usually what they've done is like book a big artist like 50 Cent and they put the Italians. This is the first time it was only Italian artists.
That lived in Italy.
Yeah.
Rapping only in Italian.
Where were they in the
Right now he's like, I'm about to move to Italy.
When
Outside-
This is the new thing.
Outside of the soccer stadium where,
Oh, soccer stadium.
yes.
Well, it's
So that
right
means
next to
we
some-
could bring some of them here then, I guess. right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal.
Try to
We're
do
trying.
it at
Maybe we
Westbury
do
Theater, County
freestyle,
Center.
freestyle into Sveta. That's the way to get the older Italians to come out. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything you think our followers would like to hear about you?
Coming up in January, anything?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I got some concerts. I got December 30th at Westbury Theater every year at the annual Disco Fever, which I have Tavares. I try to do shows for all different age brackets, and I do a doo-wop concert in the summer. But I got this Disco Fever going on at Westbury Theater with Tavares, Evelyn Champagne King, The Tramps, Harold Melvin, huge big hits, Lime, France Jolie. So they had huge hits back in the 70s and the 80s. Then in January, we have two big freestyle concerts in Jersey, the Bergen Pack one and the State Theater. You could go online and check out their websites to buy tickets. And then I have Lehman College, which is my 17th year, 17 sellout shows in a row at Lehman in the Bronx. So I still, keep it real.
Awesome, man. I love
March
that.
18th. I always got to
Stick
keep
to
it
your
real.
roots.
And then May 18th, I do my annual hip hop show with Sugar Hill Gang and Melly Mel, the Furious Five, and Peter Guns and
Real
Grandmaster
hip hop,
Caz.
real hip hop shit.
The original guys, Black Sheep, Grand Poobah, all the ones that I like that I'm friends with, and I bring them back to do their show. and then Wellmont Theater, Coney Island, and we do the County Center in Westchester. We do about 10 a year, and they all do very well.
Love it, man.
A lot of customers, same customers come to every. They're like fanatics. They're called
You need that
Freestyle Freaks. They're called Freestyle Freaks. It's an underground crazy. It blew up, and nobody wants to hear new records. They just want to hear the hits. If you got one hit like Suave Crying Over You, I do the cover girls, TKA, Cynthia,
Noel.
Lisa, Noel's my boy, Sapphire,
Silent
Sweet
Morning.
Sensation, Judy Torres, George Lamont. They're all still popular. All Seabank, Brenda K. Starr, and they get standing ovations. It's amazing. But like I said, they grew up with them. So now the crowd and they're still the same age. The girls look beautiful. The guys, nobody's busted. Everybody looks good looking. They're dressing up like, they really stepped up their game. And we're just having fun. What I did was I brought in the club atmosphere like they had when they were kids with the DJ, a little comedy, a little showmanship. And I brought it indoors. So as long as they could sit down, they're good. They stand up, they party. As long as they can sit down for a minute, then they get back up for the next act.
Selective dancing.
Yeah.
That's basically what I do
Great
at
crowd.
weddings.
And let me tell you something. You see 40, 50-year-old, I'm talking about guys, gangsters, screaming. And when you tell the crowd to say something, like say, loud, and then we were the first ones to bring it to Radio City. That was one of the most exciting nights. The first night at Radio City, I was the first one to walk out hosting the show. And at Radio City, the light is so blinding, the spotlight. You can't see nothing. It's black. So when I walked out there, I couldn't see nothing. And this is the first time you're talking to nobody. And I did my thing. This is the first. And they showed this video about Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five of my history. And now, welcome to the first old school freestyle concert at Radio City, produced by Adam Torres and Sal Abbatiello. And then who sings the first song? Niobe. And it's a cappella, and you hear, sweet, sweet love. And a spotlight just goes on her face. And the crowd just, and it's like 3 decks up. And it was amazing. Some of the acts were throwing up backstage. They were getting anxiety,
Still partying.
panic attacks. No, they were freaking out. They were so nervous. It was the first time performing at radio. You go there as a kid to see the Rockettes. Right. Now you're on that stage.
So you should be very proud of everything you accomplished.
Absolutely.
You've been through a lot.
I've been blessed. I just got my name on the Walk of Fame in the Bronx.
Oh, nice.
I got my own street, and it's right in front of the 161st Street Courthouse. So all my customers coming out from their cases, they see my name up there. Yes, Sal, people.
That's where it really counts.
That's where it belongs, baby. Right on the side door, coming out the courthouse.
Where could our fans follow you?
www.feverrecords.com. I got the website. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Guys, buy some tickets, all right?
I still
check it out,
the
baby.
phone. And
I think me and Rock got to come to one of the shows.
Oh,
soon.
great!
Yeah, we'd love to.
All right, yo, you'll be amazed of the response of the crowd.
Yeah,
how they respond.
No, I've seen the videos.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've seen the videos.
And I'm up there dancing my ass off, dressed up like I'm old DMC. That's what I am. Old DMC.
Thank you so much, Sal. We appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Rock, let's
Hey.
get thank you for coming. Let's get that intro.